Hello everyone, in this video I am going to explain about Old English period means Anglo-Saxon period starting from 450 to and in 1066 AD. The Old English period, also known as the Anglo-Saxon period, spans from 450 AD to 1066 AD. This era is marked by several key historical, linguistic and cultural developments. Historical contexts are Anglo-Saxon Invasion. The period began with the arrival of Anglo-Saxon Germanic tribes who settled in England following the decline of Roman rule. Then Christianization, the conversion to Christianity around the 7th century, brought significant cultural and intellectual changes, including the introduction of Latin literacy. Then Viking invasion, beginning in the late 8th century. Viking raids and subsequent settlement had a profound impact on the political and cultural landscape. Next is Norman Conquest. The period ended with the Norman Conquest in 1066, which introduced Norman French culture and language, profoundly influencing the English language. And some linguistic features are first is language structure. Old English or Anglo-Saxon was a Germanic language with a complex system of inflection for nouns, pronouns, adjective and verbs. Then vocabulary primarily Germanic, but Old English also incorporated Latin and Scandinavian elements due to Christianization and Viking influence. And there were several regional dialects, including West Saxon, Mercian, Northumbria, Kentish, and West Saxon eventually becoming the literary standard. In literature, we see epic poetry. The most famous work is Beowulf. It is an epic poem that reflects the heroic culture and values of Anglo-Saxon period. Next is we also see in Christian text religious writings such as the Dream of the Road and works by the monk Alfric reflect the Christian influence. We also see historical records. The Anglo-Saxon Chronicle is a vital historical source documenting events year by year. Next, we see riddles and elegies. Old English literature also includes riddles, elegies like the Wanderer and the Seafarer, which reflect on themes of loss and exile. We also see some culture and social aspects. Warrior society. The culture was heavily influenced by warrior values, kinship ties, and loyalty to one's lord, art and craftsmanship. This period showed the creation of intricate jewelry, illuminated manuscripts, and impressive structures like certain home burial site artifacts. Religion, we see the fusion of pagan and Christian belief is evident in the literature and art of the period. The Old English period laid the foundation for the development of English language and culture, leaving a legacy that continues to be studied and appreciated today. So, first work is Beowulf. The poet of Beowulf is unknown, and the poem was composed between 8th and early 18th century. The only extant manuscript, the Novel Codex, dates from around 1000 AD. The epic poem Beowulf is one of the most important works in Old English literature. It narrates the heroic deeds of Beowulf, a warrior who fights and defeats the monster Grendel and Grendel's wingful mother, and later in life a dragon. Themes of heroism, loyalty, fate, the struggle between good and evil, and the integration of Christian and pagan values were seen. And forms are alliterative verse and characteristics of Old English poetry were seen. Beowulf is a crucial source for understanding Anglo-Saxon culture values and the fusion of Christian and pagan elements. And let's see the Beowulf manuscripts or Novel Codex. It contains the epic poem Beowulf around 1000 AD. Location is British Library, London, and the sole surviving manuscript of Beowulf, one of the most important works of Old English literature. The next writer is Cadman. The birth is unknown and died around 680 AD. He published Cadman hymns composed between 658 to 680 AD. It is first mentioned in Bede's Classical History of the English People around 731 AD. Cadman's hymn is a short religious poem that praises God as the creator. According to Bede, Cadman was an illiterate horseman who miraculously received the gift of poetry. Themes of creation, divine inspiration, and the power of faith were seen, and form of alliterative verse is also seen, and it is the oldest surviving English poem and marks the beginning of Christian literature in England. His Cadman's manuscript is found in Junius manuscript, and Junius manuscript also includes poems such as Genesis, Exodus, Daniel, Christ and Satan. Date between late 18th 10th century. It is the crucial source for understanding Old English religious poetry attributed to Cadman. The next writer is the Venerable Bede, born around 672 or 673 AD, died on 26 May 735 AD. Published Ecclesiastical History of the English People, completed in 731 AD, written in Latin. This work is a comprehensive history of the Christian Church in England and the development of Anglo-Saxon England from the Roman invasion to Bede's time, conversion to Christianity, the spread of church, and historical events were seen in this. It is a prose chronicle. It is the primary historical source for early English history and provides context for other Old English literature. Its manuscript is found in the Cotton MS Jubileus B. It provides the context for the early medieval period in England. Next writer is King Alfred the Great, born in 849 AD and died in 26 October 899 AD. Published Pastoral Care around 890 AD and Consolation of Philosophy around 882 to 892 AD, Soliloquies around 895 AD, and the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle was initiated around 890 and under Alfred's reign and continued after his death. Translation of Latin text into Old English, he also done it. Themes are of education, religious guidance, philosophy and history, and forms are of prose, translation and adaptation. Alfred's efforts were crucial in preserving knowledge and promoting literacy. He laid the groundwork for a more literate and educated Anglo-Saxon society. The next is the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle. The writers are anonymous. Compiled starting around 890 AD and continued until the mid 12th century. It is a collection of annals that record the history of England from the early 5th century to the end of the Anglo-Saxon period. Themes are of political events, battles, kings, reigns, natural disasters, and other significant occurrences were seen. The chronicle is an invaluable historical document providing a continuous record of events and serving as a foundation for English historiography. The next writer is Saint Wolf. He is likely active during the late 8th to early 9th century. He wrote, composed Aline, Juliana, The Faith of Apostles, Christ too. These are the religious poems focusing on the lives of saints, Christian doctrine, and biblical narratives. Themes of Christian faith, martyrdom, divine intervention, and redemption were seen, and alliterative verse form is seen. St. Wolf's works are notable for their integration of personal religious reflection and narrative, and they provide insight into the devotional life of Anglo-Saxon Christians. Next is the Vercelli book. It is a manuscript that contains a mix of prose and poetry, including The Dream of the Rood, Andreas, Fates of Apostle, Alini, and Homils. It collects some religious poetry. Next is the Exeter book. The content compiler is unknown, and in it we found some poems like The Seafarer, a poem reflecting on the harsh life at sea and the spiritual journey of the soul. The Wanderer, a meditation of loss, exile, and the transition of earthly joys. The Wife's Lament, a woman's lament over her separation from her husband and a life of exile. Riddles, various riddles that showcase the wit and creativity of Anglo-Saxon poets. Themes of exile, fate, faith, nature, and the human conditions were seen, and forms of alliterative verse and various poetic forms were used in them. The Exeter book is one of the most significant collection of Old English literature, showcasing the diversity and richness of Anglo-Saxon poetic tradition. The next is Exeter book manuscript. It is a collection of Old English poetry, including The Seafarer, The Wanderer, The Wife's Lament, various readers, and religious poems. The next manuscript is the Paris Placeter, with it contains some Old English translations and glosses around mid 10th century. And the next is a richly illuminated manuscript containing the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John around 700 AD. It is an outstanding example of insular art and an important religious text with Old English glosses added in the 10th century. So this is the some key points of Anglo-Saxon period. In next video I will discuss Middle English period. Thank you so much.